Welcome back, everyone, to Radiant Resilience. I'm really excited for this conversation today because I think it's something that's fairly new that's being talked about right now. So, I have with me today Shannyn Schroeder. She is an executive function coach who helps neurodivergent women who feel scattered, stuck, or burned out understand how their executive function actually works so they can create systems that feel doable, not overwhelming. Shannyn has more than 9 years' experience as a coach. She raised three neurodivergent kids, so she was coaching long before she got paid for it. She's been a teacher, editor, and author before starting F-Bomb Coaching. And we are here to talk about all the things she's been doing. Hi, Shannyn. How are you?
I am doing very well. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here today.
Having me.
Yes. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start explaining what neurodivergent is, or do you want to start with talking about how you got into this work to begin with?
I think explaining neurodivergence and executive function skills is a good place to start so that people know what I'm talking about. And so
Okay.
they're not getting lost with what the hell is she saying?
Yeah.
So when I talk about neurodivergence, that's like an umbrella term for anybody whose brain is wired differently. So I think the most common is that people are like, oh, ADHD. Yes, that is one thing. But if you suffer from high anxiety, if you're on the autism spectrum, if you have severe depression, anything that shows that your brain is wired differently, that's where the neurodivergent part comes in. So it's an umbrella term just for the differences. So not good, not bad. Like I like the fact it's a disorder. I have issue with that. It is what it is. They have to call it something, but I'm like, no, it's just
Sure.
different. And so the other piece of what I do is executive function skills. And that is just like the fancy education kind of term for life skills. Like when I'm talking with clients, I'm like, these are your adulting skills. When
Mhm.
people talk about adulting being hard, it's like planning your time, doing your time management, remembering to
Mm.
pay bills when you're supposed to pay them. Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean that I'm out of underwear and I didn't do the laundry? Like that is all of that. Those are your life skills. So
Yeah.
things like task initiation, getting started on things, whether or not you like it, organization, both of your space, your physical space, your brain, your time management, planning and prioritizing, knowing what you should do when, what's more important than other things. All of those skills obviously are things that you need all the time. And you may not have had the words for that, like the vocabulary, because people will just say, oh, I just don't manage my time or I'm just disorganized. And those are the two big ones, but it's a whole host of skills.
I'm a procrastinator. Is that on your list too?
That there's other things. Procrastination is the result of some other underlying thing. So you're
Hmm.
procrastinating, but is it because you struggle with task initiation because you don't know how to get started? Or are you procrastinating because you're looking at the entire list of things to do and you don't know where to start? You don't know
That's
what's most
usually.
important to start. So, it's procrastination is there and it's a real thing, but there's an underlying cause. And it's usually not just, I don't wanna, but why don't you wanna?
Yeah. So deep diving into all of the whys for all of these things, I'm
Yes.
sure is super helpful. So then basically neurodivergent is clumping all of those things you mentioned into one umbrella category, but
Yes.
it really is all of those things, and that's just an easier way to describe it all.
Yes. Without having to get nitpicky about, but what are you?
I feel like that's probably the way it should be because if you don't know specifically, but I guess everybody probably struggles with a combination of those things, would be my
A
guess.
lot of times you will find like the comorbidity of different things. Someone with ADHD is more likely to suffer from anxiety and or depression. So you see them often like together. But does that mean you have to have? No. But for me, it's like I don't care what the label is. Even if you
Hmm.
don't have a label, but you come to me and say, my life is a mess and I don't know why. How do I
Mhm.
fix it? I don't care. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I don't care what if you have a label. Like to
Yeah.
me, it doesn't matter. It's just because you could be totally free of labels. You could be neurotypical and still struggle with executive functioning. So like that is a possibility that there are some steps along the way where you didn't learn the skills that you need to learn. So that I'm not going to look at you and say, I don't know, you don't have the right label.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Sure. No, I love that. Okay. So you said that you had three children that were neurodivergent that you raised. And so talk about that a little bit and then how you got into doing this work.
So for me, I am a trained teacher. I was an English teacher by trade, but I also have a degree, a master's in special ed and gifted ed. So I've got the background, even though I knew I was never going to work full time in a special ed classroom,
Mhm.
not because of the kids, but the bureaucracy of it. Like
Mhm.
high burnout job, I knew that was not going to be for me. So I have always been in a place that a lot of moms aren't. Like I had background knowledge. So like two of my kids, ADHD. Did I have them diagnosed? No, not until they were teenagers.
Mhm.
When they were old enough to make choices. Do you want to be on meds? Like
Mhm.
we managed things without that. Obviously, it was not severe ADHD. I was not, oh my gosh, but I can recognize I knew what it was. So I had the strategies and skills. I knew how to help my kids without calling it anything fancy. I didn't have to go and get a coach for them. I figured it out.
Yeah,
I
because
figured
that's
it out.
parenting, right?
And I came with the knowledge of what
Right.
would happen in a special ed classroom. How would someone else help my kids? So I didn't thought nothing of it because that's what moms do, right? If your
Yeah.
kid is struggling with something, you figure out how to help them. And I had been working from home for years. I had an online job that was fabulous because it worked around all of my kids' schedules.
Nice.
And they just shut down the department that I worked for. No notice. Boom, I was out of a
Oh,
job.
oh
So
my.
in my scramble to find other jobs, I found another like part-time job, but it wasn't paying enough. And I was looking for something to supplement. And I saw an ad for a company looking for executive function coaches. And I looked at it, I'm like, I don't know what this really is, but let me go and see because it's part-time. I'm like, it's probably some kind of tutoring. And after looking at the company more and going to the interview and talking about them, I'm like, so you're just like teaching life skills to students? And she's like, pretty much, yeah. And I'm like, I've been doing that, you know.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing it. I've worked with mostly high school and college clients. That's my niche. That's who I normally like when I'm working for this company. That's who I like to work with, though, because those transitions, the kids getting ready for college, going into
Mm.
college, and struggling because now they're on their own when they don't have systems in place. I love working with those clients. So it was like a natural fit for me. I like doing that. But as I've been doing this, I juggle multiple part-time jobs. I like that. That's my life. But I had been following a business coach for years. I was in her Facebook group and she was always talking about blogging. I'm like, I don't got anything to blog about. And who's gonna listen to me about doing anything? What would my business be? And post COVID, when I was seeing so many women, like personally in my life, women like friends of friends and everything, I was seeing a tremendous amount of women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, all saying, oh my gosh, I think I have ADHD. And when I saw that, when I was seeing this over and over again, I was like, now I know what my blog is. Because I knew for these women to get a diagnosis, especially for something like ADHD, because I think a lot they came through life like they were diagnosed with anxiety or depression, but nobody looked at ADHD, and for a lot of reasons that we could talk about. But I knew for them, like getting that diagnosis, there's that immediate relief of, wow, that
Mhm.
explains so much about why I am the way I am. And then, of course, there's the anger of what the fuck would my life look like if someone figured this out 30 years ago?
Yeah.
But then there's but what do I do with this? What
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of them, you think I'm in my 40s or in my 50s. What can I do about this? This is just the way I am. And even if they start looking at what are executive function skills, what does this really mean? I know coming from working for a company that parents hire to work with their kids, I know what they charge. I know how expensive it is to get a coach. And I also know that most women, if it's my kid, I'm
Mhm.
going to go work a second or a third job. I'll figure out how to come up with that money every month to get my kid that coach,
Yeah.
but I'm not doing it for me.
Yeah.
And so that's really like where my whole company was founded because I'm like, these women need the help, but
Yeah.
they're not going to try and come up with $1,000 a month to get a coach for themselves. So that's where I came at F-Bomb Coach. So like to start with the blog, and I have courses and a membership, like I've built it up over the last few years to make the knowledge that I have, the experience that I have accessible to whoever needs it without it being $1,000 a month for a coach.
I love that because I do think that post COVID, especially because of us realizing how much we could do on the internet too, because I'm a hairdresser. And so all my education went virtual and all of it is hella expensive.
Yep.
None of it is in person. And then I see so many people out there trying to be coaches for all these different things and charging an arm and a leg for it. I've also struggled with infertility, and my husband gets really upset when he sees like infertility coaches that are charging. We've already spent so much money on IVF and all these other things. And then it's, but if you want to get better and you want to have heal yourself, you got to pay me $5,000 for this coaching program.
Right.
So I love that's part of your business model because I think that's important because not everybody has access to that or has
Right.
the
And
ability to do
that's
that.
it, because I know, like I said, as a mother, like I know I had 3 kids that if I didn't have the knowledge and skills that I had, they would have needed something, or they would
Yeah.
have been struggling and miserable for much longer. And not that my children are like perfect anything, but they were able to get the skills that they needed because I already
Yeah.
had that knowledge. If I didn't, I know without a doubt, I would have gotten a third job, fourth job to be able to come up with the money to get what they need. Because as moms, typically that's what we do.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Moms sacrifice themselves all the time in their self-care. I see it in my clients too. Like as soon as the kids finally move out of the house, they're coming to me and being like, okay, I'm finally going to spend my money on me. We're 20 years into or more into their
Exactly.
lives when they're
And
just starting that self-care.
it's so easy for them to be able to say, "Oh, but I've always lived this way. It's just it is
Yeah.
what it is. I'm not going to change now." But that's not the truth. You can, regardless of age, is if you want to learn new strategies. That's the brilliance of the human brain.
Yeah.
We say you can't teach old dog new tricks, but you can.
Can,
The
yeah.
human brain science, neuroscience is showing us that the neuroplasticity of the brain, you can create new pathways to learn new things. The hard thing is finding the right things for your brain when you're neurodivergent. And if someone's just been telling you all the time, you just need to plan better. You just
Not
need to
that
organize
simple.
more. No, if I could just get rid of that phrase, you just need to,
Yes.
because they've been hearing it for 40 years.
Yeah.
You know what? If it really just was open a planner and use it, don't you think they tried?
Yeah, totally. Ugh. Okay, so I have a couple of, I'd like to talk a little bit more about ADHD and what women can look for and things like that too. But first off, can you explain the difference between ADD and ADHD?
Truly, at this point, I'm pretty sure that they've just combined them and they may have just
Oh,
dropped the H altogether. The difference between them, that hyperactivity piece, that's what the H is for. So it's attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Because
right.
when you look at ADHD, there's different kinds. There's like inattentive, there's hyperactive. You can have a combination of kinds. So I think in an attempt to streamline it, I think they got rid of the H. They just lumped it
Okay.
all together. The problem, I think, with the H, and that's really what threw off a lot of people, is that when you say hyperactive, we're all imagining that 7-year-old boy bouncing off the walls.
Yes, I had those kids in my elementary school classes. Yeah.
So that's what we think when we think hyperactive. And I truly think the number one reason why so many girls have gone undiagnosed, because for
Mhm.
a girl, it's not typically that kind of physical hyperactivity. It's the racing thoughts, it's the nonstop talking.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
people are just like, oh, she's flighty, she's an airhead, she talks too much, not realizing that her hyperactivity is internal. And that's why they were never diagnosed. When we look at what does it look like, I think that's why so many women were, when they started seeing like the influx of videos like on TikTok or Instagram or wherever they were watching, YouTube, where people are like, oh yeah, so I have ADHD, and or if you're ADHD, you probably do this. And I see them like walking into a counter, even though the counter's always there every
Yeah.
time they turn the corner,
Yeah.
because it's that their brain is somewhere else. Or things like, okay, I'm going to take a break because I'm going to go get a cup of water. And all of a sudden it's 45 minutes or an hour later, because on the way from my desk to the kitchen to get a cup of water, I had to walk past the laundry room and I realized, oh, there's a load of laundry in the washer that needs moved to the dryer. So then I do that. And then I realized, oh, wait, but I didn't change the sheets and those still need to be washed. So I went upstairs and I pulled the sheets off and I put them in the washer. And then I walked past the dog's dish and said, oh, wait, they need food. So I gave the dog food. And then I get to the kitchen and I'm like, oh, look, there's dishes in the sink. So I wash all the dishes, including the glass I brought with me because I was getting a glass of water. And I'm like, why am I here?
Yeah.
So like that kind of distractibility, because it was go get a glass of water, and in the 15 feet between you and the kitchen, or 20 feet, whatever, your mind picked up on a gazillion different things. So like when we say attention deficit, for me, it's really, people hear that and you just can't know, you're paying attention to all the things. The problem
Yeah.
is you can't filter it. You can't
Yeah.
filter to figure out what to ignore and put your focus where it should be.
Oh, yeah. That sounds very difficult. I feel like too, is there some connection with the creative brain in this too? Just because I know a lot of hairdressers, and maybe it's just because it's becoming more talked about and more acknowledged in more than just the hyperactive 7-year-old boy. But I feel like I've seen a lot of hairdressers talking about being ADD too. And so I don't know if the creative brain is a little bit more susceptible to that or not really.
You know what? I don't know if there's been a study to really look at that, but like gut level, I would say absolutely, because when you're talking about someone who is ADHD, they are outside the box thinkers. They don't fit into the typical mold. They struggle. If you give them a 9 to 5 job, they're going to struggle with that.
Yeah.
If you look at hairdressers, they're not working a 9 to 5. They're
No.
not seeing the same people day in and day out. It's
Mhm.
something different every single day. And
Every
that,
couple hours.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. That feeds like the novelty piece that their brains seek. So that to me, like, that's why when you look at a lot of entrepreneurs, they're ADHDers, because you know what? They can go from business to business. They could build up a
Mm,
business up and they could sell it and then move on to the next new exciting thing. If you're running the business yourself, there are a gazillion different pieces. So no day looks the same.
yeah.
So while I don't think it's necessarily, oh, it's a more creative brain, I think that yes, in general, if you are an ADHD person, you probably do have what most people would consider a more creative brain, because you are seeing everything. You are
Mm.
making connections that other people don't make because of the way your brain is wired.
Oh,
And that's part of why it bothers me. It's called a disorder.
yeah.
Brilliant people I know have ADHD.
Mm.
They may struggle in life because of these skills, but if you just let their brain go, brilliant.
Oh, love that. So if someone is listening that's like listening to all of this, because you've already given quite a few like tidbits on what life with ADD, ADHD looks like for certain circumstances, but if somebody's listening and they're like, oh, that resonates, but I'm not sure that's me or whatever, what would you say for people to start looking at their life and be like, okay, I need to figure this out?
So I get, for me, it really boils down to, does it matter to you whether or not you have the diagnosis?
Okay.
Because for some people, like obviously you can't get meds without a diagnosis. So if you really think like your brain is so on fire, running nonstop, that you are like, you're not able to function, then you probably would like to have the official diagnosis.
Yeah.
Depending on where you live, that could be a whole lot of hoops to jump through
Really?
to get diagnosed as an adult.
Okay.
Yes, especially as an adult woman, because there's still so much not known about it. And unfortunately, the older you get, the harder it is, because then it's hormones, it's perimenopause, it's
Oh,
which those things can exacerbate the symptoms that you have been dealing with your whole life if you have ADHD.
right.
So like your ADHD gets worse, but then be like, oh, but it's not that. So it really, like, it's going to depend on like your relationship with your doctor and whether or not you can talk to your doctor, get the referral to a neuropsych to take the test. And I have heard, like, I'm in a few different like Facebook groups, women with ADHD, and the experiences have ranged from like the full battery of neuropsych testing that I have watched my kids go through, which is hours of testing, to they had me fill out a checklist and said I have ADHD.
Mm,
So there's no, I think, true standards, because the doctor, you need a doctor's diagnosis. But then it's like I said, if you have a doctor who is not on board with that, then you have to find a new doctor.
which is the whole thing. At least
Exactly, which is a
in
whole
the
thing.
US here, I do have
Yeah.
some Canadian listeners that it maybe isn't as bad for.
Oh, I think it's every bit as bad. Maybe not with
Oh,
like having a doctor, but to get a diagnosis, I've heard from people in Canada, there's a 2-year wait list
wow. Yeah. I guess they do
to
have a
be
lot
able
of
to get
wait lists.
tested.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Oh,
so if you're really thinking like I'm at, like, I need meds because nothing else is working, I need something, then like you have to go the doctor route.
yeah.
Outside of that, like there are no other rules.
Okay.
Truly. That's why I started with, I like, to me, the label doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If I know that you've been diagnosed with something, then I am absolutely coming to our relationship with some ideas and some knowledge. But if you're like, I'm scattered, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know. I don't know if it's ADHD. I don't know. Okay, let's talk about what are the problems you're having, because we're going to attack the problems. We're going to figure out the
Right.
strategies to help solve the problems you have. What the label isn't going to matter as long as you figure out what the strategies are that you need.
Yeah. Yeah. And every person, even if they have ADD or ADHD or whatever, like I'm sure it's different too. They all need different things, right?
Exactly. Because there are some people who, whatever, their coping mechanisms throughout life, they may be super like time sensitive because
Mhm.
they grew up being told you're always late, you can't be trusted. And so they are so anxious around time that they're the people who are always 15 minutes early. But that doesn't mean that they're good at managing their time. That means that they may get stuck in what I call ADHD limbo. They're like, I have an appointment at 2 o'clock. I can't do anything before then.
Oh. Mm.
Because if I do something, if I do anything, I'm gonna leave the house late. So
Mm.
they get stuck in this limbo because if I try and do anything, I'm going to lose track of time, and then I'm going to be late, and then I'm going to feel like a failure. So from the outside, and women are brilliant at doing this. Women are like, they will spend most of their lives masking. They're going to put on that face of being normal. I can do all the things.
And I think we've always talked about women being better at multitasking than men.
Oh, which is
But
a lie.
right.
It is a
My
lie.
husband says that to me. I thought women were supposed to be better at multitasking. I'm like, sometimes I can do it, sometimes I can't do it so well. Just
But
like
here's the thing, multitasking is just a lie we were sold. Because when you look at
yeah.
how the brain functions, your brain cannot multitask. So what
Mm.
you're doing is you are task switching. You are switching from one thing
Oh.
to another repeatedly. And studies are now showing that the more times you do that, the more time you're wasting. For every interruption on a task, you lose something like 27 minutes.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't feel like it in the moment, but
Mm.
that's so every time you're going back and forth, you're losing 27 minutes because nothing's getting done.
And
But
pieces of things are getting done, but not a
exactly,
full task.
exactly. And that's, like I said, yeah, women are sold a whole lot of lies, that
Mm.
being one of them. But if you grew up really feeling less than because you were looking around going, man, they all remember to turn in their homework and mine's crumpled up at the bottom of my backpack and I don't know why.
Mm.
There's something wrong with me. So if you grew up with that, then a lot of women, they learned, like, high achieving women, a lot of high achieving women have ADHD. They
Mm.
will go undiagnosed because you can't have ADHD. Look, you're how successful you are.
Mm.
But you don't see like the burnout rates in that
Yes.
population because what they are doing, let's say it takes this much energy to be a high achieving person. If you have ADHD and you're a high achieving person, you're expending this much energy.
Mm.
It's because you have to work twice as hard to make it look like you're like everybody else. Not
Yeah.
that you couldn't have the same results if you just did it your way, but you're so afraid of doing it your way because everybody's, what is wrong with you? That's not how that's
Mm.
done.
Yeah. Are
So
we
that
also
idea that you have to fit in.
are we also taught that maybe by doing little bits and pieces of multiple tasks throughout the day, you're maybe more
Oh,
productive?
yes. Oh, of course.
Instead
Yes,
of
because
like my
look at all
husband
the things
comes,
I did,
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
but how many of them are done?
Instead of, oh, I did this one project and got it done. It's no, I did this and I did that and I did the laundry and I did the dishes and I did this and that and this and that seems more in our brains productive.
Yes. It's the idea of busyness versus productivity.
Mm,
And busyness will oftentimes win out. And
yeah.
again, a lot of times with ADHDers, because partially because your brain's like picking up all the different things, but it's like you see all the things that need to be done. So I'm like, if I could just do some of it on all these things, then I'm making progress. And in general, I am all about little steps make progress, yes,
Mm,
but you're not finishing anything
yeah.
because you can't prioritize. Like, not all things are created equal.
Yeah.
But in the ADHD brain, it is. It's all important. Yes, it is. It is all important, but not all equally important. Learning to
Mm,
differentiate that is hard.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. I totally get that. So let's talk about some of the executive function skills then that you like. I don't, can you talk about what those are and how you
Sure.
help people? Obviously, like you've got your coaching programs, you've got your stuff online. So like we don't need to do a full thing here, but for those listening, what are some things that they can do
So
to try to help themselves?
I'm going to name now, if you just Google a list of executive function skills, the lists vary a little bit depending on who you're talking to, because some people lump things together differently. But there is attention, obviously. There is organization, planning and prioritization, time management, task initiation, emotional regulation, metacognition, and working memory. Is that all of them? Oh, cognitive flexibility. Forgot that one.
Okay.
So when we look at those, like for me, working with someone, the biggest complaint that most people say is, I feel overwhelmed. I'm just so
Mm,
overwhelmed. And overwhelm is a generic word because it could mean so many different things. But
mhm.
really, what it means is that your emotions have taken over. And
Yeah.
so when we talk about emotional regulation, Dr. Dan Siegel created the hand model of the brain to explain to people how the brain works. So I'm going to show you. So like you take your thumb and you tuck it inside your fist and you fold your fingers over. And that's like what your brain is right behind your eyeball. So a fist with your thumb inside and your fingers resting over your thumb. That's your prefrontal cortex. That's where your
Mhm.
executive function skills live.
Okay.
So if you need to prioritize or plan or organize something, that's where that is. Underneath your thumb is the amygdala. That's the emotional part of your brain. So when you are triggered in any way with a strong emotion, and neurodivergent people tend to have stronger emotional reactions,
Okay.
they flip their lid.
Mm,
And when I say they flip their lid, I'm not talking about it has to be an explosive temper tantrum toddler style, okay? Because that flip lid could be you shutting down.
yeah.
Okay. But the flipped lid is about your emotional part of your brain being in charge. And when your emotional part of your brain is in charge and you flipped your lid, you cannot access those executive function skills. That's why you
Mm,
feel overwhelmed because there's something that is triggering your emotions, whether it's stress, whether it's boredom, whether it's anger, whatever that emotion is, that is preventing you from figuring out what you need to be doing and how
mm,
to do it. So it always starts with how are you feeling? Because we need to address that first.
okay.
So if you had to start somewhere, for me, it's always start with your emotions because if your body and your mind are not secure and calm, you cannot learn the other things. And it sounds silly, but truly, your brain does not differentiate what kind of fear it is.
Yeah.
You're being afraid to post that video on YouTube for your business, your brain does not distinguish that as being different from being chased by a tiger. It's fear. Fear is fear to your brain.
Yeah.
And when your emotions take over, that like you're paralyzed and you can't do anything. So learning strategies to calm your system, you're not going to get rid of the fear, but you need to calm your body because your body is reacting.
Right.
So, learning different breathing techniques. And I know it sounds cheesy, and when you're upset about something,
It's so hard.
the last thing you want someone to say is take a breath. But if you learn to do those strategies when you're calm and they just become part of your day that you do, whether it's meditation, and it doesn't have to be like woo meditation, but it could be like just 5 minutes of being calm. It could be your favorite soundtrack, something that is going to center you and calm your nervous system. So that then you could be like, okay, now what do I need to do? So that's always the first one. When we look at a lot of the other skills, then those are the things that people are like, but I'm disorganized, or I don't know where to start. Okay, you don't know where to start. Is that because you can't prioritize, or you're struggling with task initiation, which is just like the ability to get started?
Hmm.
So the hardest thing I think for most people when I'm talking to them is that it's frustrating. There is no easy button. I can't say just do this and it's going to fix it. You've been
Yeah.
hearing that your whole life, and that's why I feel like I've tried it all. Planners don't work for me. And I'm going to say to you, you need a planner.
Yeah.
I don't care what it looks like. I don't care if it's like I print my own planner because I found that I kept buying $30 planners and I wasn't using them. My life was falling apart because I wasn't using them. It wasn't the right one for me.
Yeah.
That's the frustrating part. There is no easy button for this. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of experimentation And that can feel very defeating because you're like, but I tried that, but I tried that, but I tried that. Okay, instead of feeling like a failure, that's just a data point.
And is it something that when you build a routine around too, if it becomes habit and routine, which is always hard to get going and
Yes.
then get into it. Once you're in it, it's usually pretty smooth rolling after that, but it probably takes a lot of time to get into that
Oh,
too.
absolutely. Anytime that you are establishing any kind of new routine, okay, I know I need a planner. Every day I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write down what I have to do for the day. It's a new routine. You've never done it before. Another lie we've been told on. Oh, it takes 21 days to build a habit. No, it doesn't. Okay, it takes longer. It's a lie. Don't listen to people. Okay, these are all the bro dudes telling you this. How many? No. Okay. It takes longer for most people, even longer if you have ADHD. Okay, that's just fact. Don't think, but I've been trying it. It hasn't stuck yet. You'll get there. You'll
Mm.
get there. And there's going to be days you're going to screw up and you're going to forget. That doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means, okay, I need to start again.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But like I said, that experimentation piece, when you're doing things like that, it's like you have to give things a chance to work,
Yeah.
but you don't want to stick with them if you're like, no, this really isn't working. So it's
Yeah.
okay. Do you need to abandon the strategy or do you just need to tweak it to make it work for you? And like I said, a lot of people they feel like a failure because like, why isn't this working? This should be able to
Yeah.
work. And you just have to view it as an experiment, as a data point. It
Mm.
didn't work. Now, what doesn't work, let's try something else that might work.
Yeah. What if
We
people
all want
don't know what something else that works? What are
that. Like for me, it really is just learning as many different tools and strategies as you can. And that's why that's why I have my blog. Like I've got like hundreds of blogs. Like here's 9 prioritization tools and strategies.
Yeah.
So that you can look at them and some of you remember like, that's dumb. Okay, don't even try it.
Don't
Like
try
if
that
that's
one. That's not for
if
you.
that's your gut reaction, if that's dumb, okay, don't do that one. But the ones you're like, I don't know, maybe give it a try.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things where you've been told to do things for a long time. Like I always talk, like when I'm talking with like parents of like high school and college clients, I'm like, they need a planner. And they're like, but I've been telling you, like, I know you've been telling them that. First of all, they're going to listen to me because I'm not mom. That makes a difference. I'm like, but it can't just be because here in America, kids get to middle school and we just throw a planner at them and say, here, use this. We never teach them how to use it. They
No.
all look the same. Our brains are not the same. We don't process things the same. So
Yeah.
if a kid looks at something and they're like, ew,
Mm.
no, they're not going to use it. Because even if you force them to use it, they're not actually looking at it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I print my own planner. So my planner is Monday through Saturday, Monday through Friday. I've got like the hourly grid.
Yeah.
My daughter, who is a junior in college, she will come down, she will take one look at my planner and, oh God, no. That freaks her out, seeing all the hours. Hand draws, like in a sketchbook, her weekly planner, like color codes her classes. And I'm like,
I love that.
it looks gorgeous. I'm too lazy for that. I'm never doing color coding. Color coding is fabulous for a lot of people. It's one of those things that I'll recommend for ADHDers because red means it's a meeting. I'm too lazy for that. I know that.
Yeah.
And I use my other daughter as a fabulous example of what a planner could look like. She got through all of high school. Her planner was an index card.
Love that.
Every week she had a new little 3x5 index card. She created her entire to-do list, folded it in half, stuck it in the pocket in the back of her phone. It went with her everywhere.
Oh,
I could never.
yeah.
I could never.
I
But
think
it
I
worked.
would lose it.
So for some people, it's got to be digital. If it's not on their phone, they're not going to pay attention to it. For other people, if it's not a paper planner, they're not going to look at it because they're on their phone all the time and they ignore it. So it really is about, I just need to experiment with different things. If you have a trouble starting something, that you need to find like, what is the thing that's going to get you over that hurdle for task initiation. And it really is about learning different, because some strategies will work for some people and they're not going to work for others. And like I said, it feels very defeating to do that. I have to go through that, but because everybody else makes it look easy.
Yeah.
When you look at neurotypical people, they just make it look like they just woke up one day and they knew how to organize their time.
Yeah. Yeah, it does look so easy. There's a business coach for hairdressers that I've taken classes from and stuff, and she does a planner situation every year and for the next year and stuff. And I have always it talks about planning like even 5 years from now, like what do you want your life to, and I understand the sentiment behind that, but I'm always like, my brain is, I don't know, like so much can happen in 5 years. Why do I have to think about 5 years from now?
Look at how different the world was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Who could have predicted what life would look like now?
And I get the manifesting and trying to work
Right.
towards those goals and then making the tasks to get you to that goal and things like that. But I found when I tried her planner program, I lost interest like after the first quarter of the year because I was just like, I can't plan this far in advance. And like we were talking about before we hit record, I don't plan a lot in advance for these podcasts because I like to just have it happen. And you were saying the same about writing a book, and everybody's brains just function so differently. So I love that I feel like nowadays there are more and more options coming out as we learn more about these brain, not disorders, but what should we call them?
No, like the differences, like
Differences. I like that.
brain
Yeah.
differences. Because I like they are all like they fall under the umbrella of disorders, but
Yeah.
it irritates me because it just makes it sound like something's wrong with you.
Yeah, like you're broken.
Exactly. And that really makes me mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and I would say if you're out there and you're saying like, where do I even start? Like you could just Google free planner templates. There's
Mm.
lots of freebies on the internet. Don't go and please don't keep dropping $40 to buy a planner you're never going to use.
Yeah.
Please, they're too expensive. You could like download some free like printable ones, try them out. So that was horrible. I didn't like that layout. Try a different layout. If you are struggling with like task initiation, one of my favorite strategies, if you have a hard time getting started on something, and yes, for those of you who live with neurotypical people and who are told everybody has that problem sometimes. No, I'm talking like people who struggle with task initiation, even if it's something they like to do, they
Mm.
will sometimes still struggle to make themselves get started. They don't know why, it just is. So I talk a lot about 5-minute goals.
Oh.
5 minutes. You just set a timer and say, you know what? I'm going to look at this and I'm just going to do it for 5 minutes. That's it. The catch is when the timer goes off, you have to allow yourself to walk away. You have to let yourself off the hook. Because a lot of people will be like, especially like parents will be like, oh, but it's not done. But the math homework is done. So what? We told them 5 minutes. Doesn't mean you're done forever. It means you're going to take a break and you're going to come back. And if you have to chip away at that goal, that task, 5 minutes at a time, it will get done. You're not going to be as miserable because I'm not making you sit and look at it for 45 minutes.
Yeah. So are you
But
saying do it for 5 minutes, walk away for a certain amount of time, and then go back to it for 5 minutes
yes.
again?
And yes, exactly. Walk away, do something else that you do want to do, come back and do another 5 minutes. But what happens most of the time, unless it's something that you truly hate, the timer will go off and you'll be like, this isn't so bad. I can keep going because your brain has already processed that it's not that bad. Your brain has already looked at the fact that it's no longer a blank page or a blinking cursor. There's something there. You've already started it, and our brain likes to see progress.
Yeah.
Our brain is like, ooh, I did that. I could do some more.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier. It's not that, oh my gosh, it's so much to do. It's 40 math problems or it's a whole essay. You're not looking at that big picture. You're looking like, oh, it was a blank page. Now it's not. Yay, me.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's one of those things that most people won't even think about because they just see it as this daunting task. I have to do it. I have to do it. I have to do it. You don't have to do it all in one sitting. Just do it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And every time you go back to it, it's easier to go back to it because every time you go back to it, more progress has been made. And your brain's like, ooh, but wait, I'm more than halfway there. I bet I can get it all done in 10 minutes and be done with the stupid thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it really is about just learning about as many different, like, I hesitate to call them hacks or tricks, but that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
like you are learning the strategies that make your brain happy. Because if your brain is happy,
Mm.
your life's going to be easier.
Yeah. And then you're not feeling the overwhelm and the burnout as
Right,
much.
exactly.
So what are some tips that you have for the prioritizing certain tasks? So for that person like you talked about earlier that's running all over the house doing the 8 million things because they went to get a drink of water, or the person that's got a million things to do and has to sit down and is okay, but how do I decide what to start with? What are your...
You may have heard of the Eisenhower matrix, which is like a 4-square grid, and you put everything into one of the 4 quadrants. It's based on importance and urgent. So if something is both important and urgent, it goes in one box. If it's important but not urgent, another box. If it's urgent but not important, one spot. And if it's not urgent or not important, it goes in the last box. Obviously, we know what we're supposed to do with the last box, right? We don't worry about it. But here's the thing. The problem with that, first of all, everything's important. No, it's not. So when we talk about important versus urgent, what you have to think about, something that is important is something that if it's not done, there are negative consequences. Okay. If something is urgent, if it is not done now, there are negative consequences.
Okay.
And that's something that, depending on the task, can shift. So I like to use a crying baby as an example. Your baby is in bed, your baby starts crying. That is both important and urgent. Your baby is upset. You need to go see what your baby needs.
Right.
Diaper change, food, whatever, right? That is urgent and important. It needs to happen now. If you've changed your baby, it's 8 o'clock at night, it is bedtime, and you're trying to sleep train your child, now that same baby's cry might not be as, it's still important because it's your baby, not quite as urgent. You might let them say, can they figure it out? Can they go to sleep? It changes, right?
Yeah.
So what is important and urgent today, things are going to move around.
Yeah.
Okay. When we look at things that are, okay, let's look at that last box, the things that are not urgent and not important. That box, like I said, most people are like, you just don't do it. Just cut it out of your life. That tends to be where the fun stuff is. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's watching Netflix. That's scrolling on
Reading
your
a book. Yeah.
Exactly. That's stuff that is, there are no negative consequences for not doing that. There is no urgency for that. So I'm not going to me, you should indulge in that sometimes. You don't want who wants to cut all the fun out of life, right? But it needs to come after these other things are tackled. So the things that are urgent but not important, those are like the constant notifications, the email, the texting, all of that. Those feel urgent because it's there in your face all the time. So it's got that feeling of urgency, but it's not necessarily even important. Something that, do you really need to deal with it right now? We're taught that because we heard the ping or we saw the thing scroll that we need to go click, but we don't.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at your to-do list, to be able to say what is truly important and urgent, this is what I got to do today. The things that are important but not urgent are like, when am I going to schedule them? They have to be done. When am I going to make it happen? And then the other things, all those other things get filtered down from there. So yes, you're going to figure out when you're going to do the fun things, schedule them in. That's fine. Absolutely. I'm not trying to take away all fun things. But when you look at your list, not all things are created equal.
Yeah.
And when you feel that overwhelm of, I've got 42 things, I don't know where to start, they all have to be done, that's when you just turn on your phone and you're going to scroll and waste 2 hours on TikTok anyway. Because you don't know what else to do.
Yeah. And I think we're all guilty of that for sure, with the way that our world is at our fingertips and social media. It's just the way things.
It's an easy escape. And if I'm looking at that, I'm not looking at that to-do list of 42 things.
Yeah. I find myself being like, oh, do I have time tomorrow for that? Okay. Yeah, I have time tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and I feel the same way. I'm like, oh man, I have so much to do and I should have done that yesterday. And
and then you're going to beat yourself up because you didn't get it and you're going to run out of time. And yeah, the self-blame. Okay. Yeah, you screwed up and you shouldn't have done it, but get over it. Beating yourself up, not going to change the situation, not going to help. And you're definitely not going to feel better.
Yeah.
Okay. What can I do now to change things going forward?
Yeah. And little bits at a time, like you said, I think is probably really helpful.
Yes. Like when you're looking at that big giant list, or if it's a big project, something that just feels too huge, break things down to the tiniest, smallest, most ridiculous step.
Yeah.
Because if I have to write a report, my first step is not write the report. My first step is turn the computer on. Next step is open a document. Like, those are steps that kind of, we don't include them in our list of to-dos, but those are steps.
They seem insignificant. Like they're just, that's just what you're supposed to do. So why do I have to write that down?
Exactly. But if you write that down as part of the steps of what you need to do, then every time that you're checking off one of those things on that list, your brain's going, go us, look at us, we're making progress.
Yeah.
And then your brain's, okay, maybe this isn't so scary.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at that, okay, what do you actually have to do to write the report? Do you have to gather notes from other people? Do you have to brainstorm what's going in the report? Like, what do you need? Gather that stuff? Like, those are all steps that's part of what's clouding your judgment about what is overwhelming you, because it seems so big. Break down all of the steps and break it down like simple. And the smaller it is, like I said, it seems totally ridiculous to break it down that small. But when you do that, you're giving your brain, I can do this one step.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at the whole giant project. I can do this one step. If you're looking for an AI tool, totally free online, goblin.tools.
Goblin.tools. I'm going to write that down so I can put it in the show notes for everybody.
And you can go there and you can give it whatever task you have. Clean my kitchen. and it will break it down. It will give you a bunch of steps, and then you can go into each of those steps and it will
Oh,
break it down more. Now, it's AI. Is it always right? No, it doesn't know whether or not you have a dishwasher, but it may
right.
say load the dishwasher.
Yep.
So obviously you're going to have to tweak it for yourself. But when you're feeling like, I don't know, like my entire house is a mess, I need to clean my house. So you put in clean house and it's going to break it down for you. And then you can
Mhm.
say, okay, I don't have to worry about cleaning the halls today. Today is just going to be kitchen. And then you can look at how it broke down the kitchen. And again, for each of those things, you can just tell it to break it down further. And you can choose how many chili peppers tells you like how far down it's going to break it. Fewer
Yeah.
chili peppers are going to be like bigger chunks. More chili peppers are going to tiny steps.
Okay.
Totally free tool. Like I said, it's not perfect, but when you're feeling like, I don't know where to start, I don't even know how to make this list, tools are there. Go ahead and use it. It's free.
Yeah. So what do you recommend for that person that squirrels during this? Okay, we've made our lists, we've got the tasks, and then I go get that glass of water and then I've lost it again. How do we come back to it?
So I always suggest time blocking, which the most famous is Pomodoro method, which is you've probably seen the little tomato timers where it's like you
Mm.
work 25 minutes on and it's focused work and you work on your one task and then the timer goes off, you take a 5-minute break and you do that 3 or 4 times and then you take a longer break. In theory, fabulous. You know, all the gurus talk about how productive you'll be if you're using Pomodoro. They're not wrong. The problem is that so many people get tied to, I got to do for 25 minutes. Not every brain is wired for 25 minutes.
Right.
You have to figure out what your time block is. Your time block might only be 15 minutes, might only be 10. Like, what is the amount of time that your brain can truly focus on one task? Like, truly ignore all of the notifications, the other things on your list. You can give it your all for that period of time.
Mm.
That's your time block. And then when the timer goes off and you're going to take your 5-minute break, you have the timer for the 5-minute break. You're going to get that drink of water, even if you get distracted along the way. Oh, you're going to hear that timer go off. Wait a minute. I'm supposed to be
Gotta
going
go
back to
back.
my computer now.
Yeah.
Oh, but my glass of water, let me grab it. So now you haven't wasted an hour. You did waste your 5-minute break, but you got up and got away from your desk. So that's okay. I call that a win.
Yeah.
Maybe you got a load of laundry started. That's okay. That's a win. But you
Yeah.
didn't get totally distracted and lose an hour of your day because you have a timer to remind you. And a lot of people are like, I've seen people like, they don't want to show me their phone because they're like, I don't want you to see how many alarms no, why be embarrassed? I don't care that you have 100 alarms set.
Oh man, you should see the timers on my phone, but that's
Like, do what you got to
mostly,
do.
I don't know when the iPhones started saving your timers, and I don't know if that's something I can shut off on my phone because I time at work when I do hair color all the time. And so I've got 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, and I'm like, why are these saved? I just would rather just set it when I need it. But they save the timers now, so.
Yeah, I never realized that. I don't know that I don't know that mine's ever saved. I'll have to go look. I don't pay
Yeah.
attention because
Yeah.
I don't time that much, but yeah, that's,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah,
It's,
that's just to have time. Like that is an accommodation that you should be able to use.
yeah. Yeah.
And I always say, like, when you're depending if you're using alarms for things like as reminders for yourself, don't use the same sound. Like, if you
Oh.
use your phone as your alarm in the morning, you should absolutely not be using that same sound for all of the different alarms you have because
Mm.
your brain tunes it out.
Yeah.
Your
And then
brain's
you're
not
gonna
paying
go,
attention.
or what was I supposed to go back to? Which
Right.
task was I
If you
doing?
have a different sound, your brain's gonna be like, what was that? You know? So
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be switching what I'm doing right now. I'm supposed to be going to get ready to go to the meeting, or it's time for me to take a break because your brain gets so those alarms that we hear all the time become background noise and
Mm.
it's going to ignore it and you're going to work through it and then be late for your meeting. So
Yeah. Yes.
you need those things that are like, oh, wait a minute. No, that was different. What was that? And it will pull you the way away that it needs to pull you away.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. This is all so interesting. So tell me about your coaching program and what all you offer. Obviously, I will link everything in the show notes on how to get a hold of you and things like that. But explain, obviously, we know what you do pretty much, but what if somebody goes to your website and is looking for something, how does that all look and what do you offer and all that stuff?
So if you go to my website, you will see at the very top, I have a free course, you sign up, and it will explain the basics of executive functioning and neurodivergence. Totally free. It costs you your email. Like you sign up with your email, it's yours. And so all of my recordings, because I know my people, all of my videos are 15 minutes or less. So
Nice.
you don't have to sit down. You're not giving up 3 hours of your time. You can work through it. There's a workbook to go along with it. It's got a bunch of tools and strategies in it for some of the executive function skills. Obviously, I don't cover everything. I obviously have my blog, which has, I don't know, I have at least 300 blog posts. I've been doing it for a couple of years now. So there's a lot of information freely available there. I have a free Facebook group for women only. Sorry, dudes, you're not invited. It's executive functioning for support for women. It's a group of about 8,000 women.
Wow.
We share tips and strategies. I post things every day. And then I also have freestanding courses that people can buy if they just want to learn one thing. And then I have a membership. And in the membership, you get access to all of my courses. You get access to, I'm doing more business focused trainings now because what I found is that even though I want to help women in general, so many women are like, they are entrepreneurs, they are business owners. And yes, they need the executive function skill help. It's also about like, how do I make this work for my business? So I'm doing more kind of trainings that are business focused, and obviously you'll get access to all of that and free additional resources like printables and things like that you can experiment with and use what works and toss what doesn't. And yeah, so it's a lot there. And I haven't for the last couple of months, but when I started a membership, I would do monthly calls. I'm going to get back to it now that I've got things resituated with my membership. So like once a month, I will do an AMA call, which is Ask Me Anything. So you get on Zoom and you can just come and say, how do I do this? Or why is this not? And I will do my best to help you. And so it's a group call, depending on how many people show up. So it's not like quite one-on-one coaching, but you can get your questions answered. Yeah.
So you don't do one-on-one aside from just those calls?
In general, I do occasionally take on one-on-one clients. And if someone emails me and then we'll talk about it, I'm very picky about that because one-on-one coaching is not just time consuming, like it's draining because I have to know you to be able to help you one-on-one, and it's expensive and I don't want anybody to jump in and waste their time not really sure if we would be a good fit. So so if someone reaches out to me and says, hey, I really want a one-on-one coach, I will talk with them about it. I do it, but I don't take on lots of clients just because there's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah, for sure. And when you're doing all those other things with the courses and all the things, like presumably someone can find a resource of what they're looking for and all of that too.
Right.
So, and that was all probably time consuming to build.
Like I said, I've been at it for a couple of years, and like the teacher in me, I love creating courses. So
yeah, love that.
Oh, wait, I need a course on this. And so yes, then there's another course.
Yeah, amazing. As we're wrapping up here, what parting words do you have for my listeners at the end of this interview?
My parting words are the same parting words that I say all the time to my Facebook group, to my members, to my blog audience. Regardless of how you grew up feeling, being neurodivergent does not mean that you are lazy, stupid, or broken. Your brain is just different. And you really need to kind of like start with that acceptance. And I know that you've got that nasty little voice in your head that still tells you how screwed up you are. And you may still have it from the people around you who don't understand, telling you that you're lazy because you didn't do X, Y, Z. You are just different, and you need to give yourself the time and space to find the tools and strategies that will work for you. But they do exist. I promise.
And go check out Shannyn's website just so you can find all the things. That's where all the tools are, right?
Yes, they are. All the tools are there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's been so enlightening and amazing, and I love it. I love what you're doing in the world. So thank you so much for all the work you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun. It was a good conversation.
Yeah, I learned a lot. So I hope my listeners learned a lot too. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.